If change were easy, everyone would have done it already. There are things you can do that increase the likelihood of your success and help you make the changes you want to see in yourself. In this video, you'll learn the top 7 ingredients for successful goal setting, things you should be doing so that you can achieve long-term results. I'm Ellen Spiegel. I have decades of business experience, over 30 years experience working with startups, and I'm a recovering politician, having served in the Nevada legislature for 10 years. I know how to reinvent myself, and I've been a mentor and a coach, successfully helping others transform themselves using a structure for change. Now, I want to help you. Let's jump in. Ingredient number 1, finding your why. In my video, 4 reasons to set goals and reinvent yourself today, I spoke about establishing priorities based on your personal motivation. I call this getting to why. Once you understand your motivators, you'll be better suited to start with the things that you're most likely to succeed at, and then you'll be able to build upon your successes. It is much easier to build on success than to be digging yourself out of a hole. Ingredient number 2 is understanding your core values about change. This is where you take a personal inventory and you get an understanding of what's important to you. You know, one of the things that I've said for years is I have to be able to sleep at night. And I've taken personal inventories about my core values. I know what's important to me. There are some things that I'm willing to flex on and some things that I am just not. No matter what, I am not willing to flex on. And understanding the boundaries and understanding myself gives me the confidence that I have in my decision making and the actions that I take. So that way I know that as I'm moving forward with things, that they'll sit right with me and they'll be comfortable. And that's really important for long-term change. Because if you're not comfortable with it, you're not going to be able to sustain it. So it's really important that you figure this out. And we'll have a video that's dedicated to that. Ingredient number 3, creating your vision. It's really important in life to know that you have a roadmap and that you have direction and you know where you're going. If you think about how simple life was as a student, where you got up every day, you went to school, you knew what was expected of you, you knew that at the end of the school year you'd have summer break, and then you'd mostly move on to the next grade and progress through your elementary school career, junior high school, college, for some folks, graduate school, and then you get into real life. And once you get into real life and you've passed graduation, unless you go back to school, you're kind of just have this big, vast array of open time and openness. And you can get up every day, you can go to work, you can do lots of things, but unless you have a vision for where you want to be and what you want to be doing, you're just going to be swimming along and swimming along. And you're not going to be achieving your goals because you're not going to have your goals. You're not going to have a vision. You're not going to be able to get somewhere because you don't know where you're going to. So it is fundamentally important that you have a vision. Once you have a vision, you'll be able to take advantage of ingredient number 4, which is setting SMART goals. For those of you who don't know what SMART goals are, the word SMART is actually an acronym. So these goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-framed. So they need to have all 5 ingredients for these goals to actually work and be smart. We'll go through some SMART goal setting in a future video, but understand that if you just have a vision and you don't attach goals to it, you're not going to achieve it because you're not going to have any structure. You're not going to have a structure for change. You're not going to have the means to be able to achieve your vision. It's the difference between being a dreamer and a doer. A dreamer creates the vision. The doer also creates the action plan that will enable that vision to come true. We're now more than halfway through. The first 4 ingredients really require a lot of introspection, and I hope you're finding this thought-provoking. And as I've said earlier, in the coming weeks, I'll be taking a deeper dive into all of them. Now, of course, I'm always available to answer your questions, and you can put comments into the comment section below. Please do that. I want to hear your thoughts in addition to your questions. And you can also email me. My personal email address is ellenbspiegel@gmail.com. So that's ELLEN, the letter B, Spiegel, SPIEGEL, @gmail.com. Now let's continue on. Like I said, we're more than halfway there. Ingredient number 5 is finding the helpers. You can't do this by yourself. Nobody can do this by yourself. Again, as I said earlier, if change were easy, you would have already done it. So you need helpers. You need people along the way who are going to help. And some of these helpers are going to be giving you tools. Some of these helpers are going to be giving you encouragement. There are all sorts of things that these helpers can do. And it's going to be interesting because a lot of times the people who you think will be your helpers are not. And people that you didn't even expect would be your helpers come out of the woodwork and are extremely helpful. I found this especially true in my career in politics. And it's amazing. It was also very, very important in corporate world and as an entrepreneur. So finding your helpers, finding the people who will be there for you is something that is absolutely mission critical. Ingredient number 6 is establishing boundaries. In my various careers, I've needed to set boundaries, whether it's from working at home. I used to have people who would call me during the day and say, well, I know you're not really working. And I'd say, well, of course I'm working. I'm working from home. And people didn't understand it back then. And they thought that if you were working from home, it meant that you were sitting around in your jammies, watching soap operas, eating bonbons, and maybe doing a tiny little bit of work versus getting up and working really, really hard just from home because you couldn't necessarily afford to have an outside office. So you need to be establishing boundaries and parameters. Similarly, your work, especially if you work from home like I do, your work can take over your life. It can dominate everything. You can just keep saying 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes, 5 more minutes. And then you turn around and it's 8 o'clock at night and you still haven't started cooking dinner. Or you haven't taken the dog for a walk or done your grocery shopping. So it's really important that you set up boundaries so that you understand and that others understand what's permissible and what isn't. Ingredient number 7 is dealing with stumbling blocks. It's facing your fears and managing your risks. There's always a risk of failure. Anytime you do something, there's a risk of failure. But you know when there's also a risk of failure? When you do nothing. Because if you do nothing, you're not changing. And then you'll never achieve that goal. You'll never achieve that. So it's a guaranteed fail. But again, it's really important that you understand that stumbling blocks happen. And again, in my first video, I talked about the process of change. And you can always relapse at any minute. And it happens and it's normal. So understanding that stumbling blocks can happen and having the tools to deal with stumbling blocks are things that are really important. So as I said, in future videos, I'll dive into all of these in greater depth. In the meantime, like I said, you might want to check out my number 1 goal setting tip. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you.